Good. All right, we got a light crowd today. We had a COVID issue, but we do have a few in here with us.
Oh man. Okay. Did you want to wait to do it, or you still want to do it
No,
today?
they're not going to be here. So I'm
Okay.
recording it, and several schools are going to see this as well. And we got some
Okay.
really good questions for you.
Good. Good. Good.
Let me get you turned up here. All right. Well, thank you for coming. I know you're really busy, and I think congratulations are in line. Uh,
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, busy is a good word for it.
your your book here. I
I
finished it last
appreciate
night.
that.
Great stuff. Very easy reading. You know, all these ones that are seeing it now and the ones that may see this later. You know,
Mhm.
even as a high school student, it's a book that is extremely easy to read. It's got great information. You have your visual map in there. You have your the part at the end where you can write down your goals. And
Yeah.
like you mentioned in the book, even if you have no plans on being an entrepreneur, you can use this stuff for your personal relationships, and you can use it in any type of business if you want to work in a marketing field for somebody else. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
transfer into all types of skills, all types of industries. And congratulations to you again for this great book and for being able to share your story and your experience with all these people. So
Yeah.
we definitely have to talk about, and I'll show it one more time for the camera. A lot alike is her book, and it is fantastic. You know, it's a great read for you kids. So I hope everybody here gets to order theirs and gets a chance to read it. So
Thank you. I appreciate that very, very, very much.
well
Yeah.
deserved. So why don't you talk a little bit of, and we've looked at your website, we've watched a couple of your YouTube videos. Can you talk a little bit about your journey from starting out at 99 Jams as an intern to where you are now?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So for me, it's really interesting because I do talk about this a little bit in the book. Really connecting to WJMI was something that happened by chance, and I won't say by chance. I feel like it was all destiny and a part of my purpose. But I went to Belhaven College, and my last semester there, I had to spend an extra semester at Belhaven, which was actually the semester that I got the internship at WJMI. And once I connected there to Stan Branson, Mailman, Alice Marie, DJ Finesse, people that I grew up listening to here in the city of Jackson, interning there, it was a series of events. The weekend that I happened, well, the time frame that I happened to be working there as an intern, one of their weekend people had quit. And I used to hang out and just joke around with Mailman in the morning show on the air. And Stan, I guess, overheard me, who was the program director and still is, offered me a job on the weekend and asked me, did I want the slot? And I was like, heck yeah, I do. And so I ended up working at WJMI. And I know it was there that helped me to build the confidence to be able to speak on a regular on a microphone, to speak to crowds. It enhanced my ability to do that, even though I have been put on stages my whole life. So my mother was a teacher for 33 years in Jackson Public Schools, and from elementary through junior high and high school, there were several opportunities over the years that I spent on stages, whether I was reciting poetry or reciting lines in a program, and even in high school, I spent time working with youth right out of high school. I spent time, just I was always in positions to where I was either speaking in spaces or reciting. So I had just gotten used to speaking in front of people. But at JMI, at the radio station, was really where I honed into the bigger audiences, the idea of hundreds of thousands of people, hearing my voice at one time. And it gave me the confidence that I needed to really be in the position that I am today. So yeah, so that would be my journey to JMI. And during my time there was when I started an open mic, and then got connected to so many artists, creatives, and entrepreneurs. And that was when I started working with people with their brand. That was when I started managing talent and during that time and helped them to build a career. And that gave me the confidence, really, for real, to decide that I can do this for a lot of people. And so I made that decision. I quit my job on September the 22nd, 2018, after I had been doing the work, after I had been building the reputation, after I had been working and proving myself and honing my own skills and getting better and learning and investing in myself, not only financially, but also in education, right? Then I took that leap and became a full-time entrepreneur that year in November.
That's awesome. And you talk about your managing talent. You had some heavy hitters you were managing. My friend Rita Brent, right when you started managing her, she's on Comedy Central with Heart of the City and Kevin Hart, and
Yeah.
that was her big break, and you had a lot to do with that. So it wasn't like you
Yeah.
were some novice when you got into this. You were really hitting it big from the beginning. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. That
now
was a
one thing,
learning
yeah,
experience. It was
one
good.
thing you talked about there, and I'm glad you did. So even if, and we have all ninth graders here, and most of the ninth graders are going to see this, but one thing you talked about there that I think is so important that I always tell these kids that no matter what industry you're going to go into, no matter what you're going to do, whether you're going to work for yourself or for somebody else, you said that being on the microphone helps your speaking skills.
Yes.
So even if you're never going to be somebody like I can speak in front of people all the time. I know you do all the time. So it's
Sure.
natural for us.
Sure.
But how important is that for maybe a 14, 15, 16-year-old seeing this, even if they're not going to be a public speaker, a teacher, or somebody like you putting on your workshops? How important is that communication aspect in sales or in just in any professional setting?
Yeah, well, it's important in any area of life, communication, right? There isn't a part of life that communication is not important. We live in a world where a lot of us, and not just, I'm not just going to put this on the youth, but especially the youth, because they're coming up in a world where all they know is technology and distraction and, isolation by, devices and social media. But communication is important in any aspect of life, especially if you're looking to be an entrepreneur, especially if you're looking to work with other people, especially if you're even looking to run a business and have employees, if you want to be in a relationship with someone, if you want to communicate with friends and family. There isn't a part of life where communication is important, from verbal communication to nonverbal communication to just reading people, reading a room, walking into a situation and being aware of the environment and knowing how to fit in. These things can all help you to benefit, to gain leverage in business as well as just in life with people in general, just being open to that. And I think it's so funny because public speaking is probably one of the most feared things in the world. Like, people are deathly afraid of public speaking. Some people would rather jump out of an airplane than speak to a large room and group of people. And even me, I still have to, get myself pumped up to go into spaces and rooms. I still have to, I have certain rituals and things that I do. I take deep breaths. I prepare myself, and when I'm not prepared, I can tell I feel it. And so, you know, I do things to help me not be overwhelmed and nervous. And this is something that I've done majority of my life. And so at any given moment, I just don't think the nerves are beyond most people. But I do recommend that you start, right? Because most people are like, well, I'm scared, I'm just not going to do it. I just do recommend that you start because it's a good practice, even if it's not a career that you want to move into as being a speaker or, a motivational speaker. But I believe it just gives you confidence. It also helps you to better know how you communicate, right? Even when you're thinking about how you're delivering speeches, it helps you to understand your own means of communications and your own hangups. And so in those moments where you may have to pitch and ask people for money for a business venture you want to do, or in those moments where you're trying to connect with a group of people, maybe to work with them and understand how to work better in a group, there's just so many benefits, I think, to public speaking. So I recommend that people, as often as they can, if they have the opportunity, get in front of people and speak so you can practice.
Yeah, and I can't speak for the other teachers that are going to see this, but I think we're pretty much all on the same page as far as, and I had some other ones in my class and other classes here. I always require students to speak in front of the room, and
Yeah.
it's not to be mean, and it's not to make them scared, but like you said, the importance of being able to communicate, and you talk about this in the book, being able to communicate what you're selling, because
Yes.
sales, if I'm not, you don't even have to have a college degree if you can market something. Even if you don't want to own the company, a company will hire you.
Yes.
You have that
Absolutely.
skill. To me, it's still the most underrated skill in America, and it's the most mental game you can play.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, even me and you have college degrees. Even if we didn't have that, if we were able to do that, we would still be able to find a job.
Yep. Yep. I
Um,
agree.
uh, Now talk a little bit about in your book. You said this really jumped out at me last night. You talked about the confidence that you had to not only show how great you were, but to be able to ask somebody to pay for it as well. And you talked about people paying for convenience. So can you talk a little bit about when you're marketing something, how do you show that you're better than everybody else when other people are selling the same thing?
Yeah. So yeah, I absolutely believe that our relationship with money, how we grew up, how your parents are managed money, how you saw them manage money, or maybe how you saw the lack of, or maybe there was an abundance, directly affects the way we show up in the world as adults. And so I think one thing that's good is for as soon as you can, whether somebody else is helping you do it or you're doing it yourself, because I say doing it yourself because if you're like my teenager, and most of these teenagers are, there's not pretty much a moment where the phone isn't in their hand. And so you want to take advantage of this device and do more than social media apps. And every once in a while, jump over to Google or jump over to YouTube, the University of YouTube, as I call it, and get versed on financial literacy. Because unfortunately, the way that, and I know this is for schools, but schools really don't do the best job in the cases that I remember, unless it's changed, preparing kids financially and teaching them a lot of the financial things when it comes to how to function in this world, like stocks and investment. There might be small classes and sessions on it, but just in a general sense, those are the things as adults most people are trying to scrambling to figure out and saying, man, I really need to get into investments, I really need to get into real estate, I really need to get into stocks. And as adults, we're scrambling because we weren't taught this in school, right? And so and there's so much information there. But I say that to say, thinking about when you understand money on those levels, and you understand that money is energy, and you don't give it too much weight, just to understand it's a mean of trades for service, right? Then when you get to a space to where you have your own business and you're asking people to pay you for your worth, you don't have that fear or emotional attachment to it that's stopping you from asking people to pay your worth. That's the first thing when it comes to money. So I encourage people to get comfortable and knowledgeable about financial literacy, about money, things around money, just understanding it so that you can dismantle whatever shame or fear that you have around it. That's the first thing. The second thing is when it comes to standing out and connecting to your audience, I think, really essentially it goes back to the emotional thing, right? I'm talking about the emotional connection to money, but also because people are so emotionally attached to money in that way, they're also emotionally attached to money in the way that they spend. So when you can identify what your business or your service does for people on an emotional level, right? Then you can the job is as a brand to use that in the marketing, to talk about that and to maximize that and to show that, and then to use your own uniqueness that you bring to the table as a person or a business and a brand to pair with that and say, okay, this is what we do. So for example, I use Chick-fil-A because I use them in the book as an example. Chick-fil-A, for those of you that don't know, I don't know what rock you're under, but maybe you don't know what Chick-fil-A is. It is there's a chicken restaurant, and it's a fast food drive-through restaurant where they sell chicken wraps, chicken strips, chicken nuggets, chicken sandwiches, chicken soup, chicken salad. Okay, that's it. This is the extent of their menu. It's chicken. And the owners of the company, their mission statement to this day is to have a positive impact on everyone that comes across Chick-fil-A. They are a Christian based company. And so they want to their mission statement says they want to glorify God by having a positive influence on everyone that encounters Chick-fil-A. Now they sell chicken, but their mission is we just want to have a positive influence on every person that encounters us. That's an emotional deliverable, right? We just want to make people feel good. And so what do? Their employees are required to say my pleasure after every engagement and encounter. If you drive through a Chick-fil-A, if you've ever been there on repeat, they are saying my pleasure. It is drilled into their head. Not only that, I can ask for 17 sauces and they never blink. Like I've asked for 7 different sauces. They're not like the other restaurants that are like, oh, we got to charge 25 cents, or they give you 1 or 2 when you're asking for them. They just do it. I've even known, and this has happened to me personally, and the more I talk about it, the more people say, man, that happened to me too. It's one time I drove through the drive-through and didn't have my wallet, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna be back.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was stuck in line. And she handed me the food, no hesitation. I said, don't worry about it, just pay me when you come back. Who does that? Nobody.
Yeah.
So ultimately, they decided to open up a chicken restaurant to have this influence and connection to people on an emotional level, to give them a positive experience. And you know what happens? it's wildly successful. People go there and pay $9 for mediocre chicken. I mean, it's good, but it's not like
Right.
award winning, but it's good. It's
Yeah.
good. But yet and still, people are just excited about being a part and being at Chick-fil-A. It just makes them feel good. And so more people frequent there, including myself. I've been sponsoring them since I was a teenager.
Now, and you kind of talked about this here, but in the book, I thought it was also great. Whether you're working for a company as a marketing person or you are a brand strategist like you, it's important to realize who you need to know who you're selling to.
Yes.
And you said it's important to know not only what problem you're going to solve, but who is going to solve or who you're going to solve it for, because every person is not going to be the person you're shooting for, and you can waste a lot of money and a lot of time by trying to market to the wrong people.
100%. 100%. For whatever reason, I want to say this first, and then you're absolutely right. And I'm glad you brought that up. But for whatever reason, we spend time chasing. And I get it. I understand because we want to expand, we want to grow. But we put a lot of focus into trying to gain more people. We have this obsession with consumption, consuming more. We want more followers. We want more customers. We want more consumers. And I get it. Of course, as a business, you want as many customers and consumers as possible. That you equate that to success, the growth of your business or service. But what happens in that obsessive, compulsive, sometimes chase of more people, we tend to neglect the people that we actually are serving that are here, that are our loyal, faithful 20%, right? Our 20% people that are just faithful to us no matter what. And we want to make sure that we tend to that relationship and grow that relationship. But then here's the beautiful thing about the word relationship and definitions and words, right? We're in a school, is that by sheer definition of a relationship, that means that there has to be engagement, that you have to know in order to maintain a good, healthy relationship, whether it's with your friends, your spouse, your significant boyfriend or your girlfriend, your mother, anybody, you have to spend time. You have to know who they are. You have to understand their needs. You have to sometimes speak their language, right? If I'm talking to a toddler the same way I would talk to a college student, the toddler would be like, they would be totally confused about my conversation. If I'm talking to a 22-year-old, the same way I would talk to a toddler, they feel insulted, right? And so we shift our conversations when we're talking to people, right? When we adapt. And in that same way, we should know and understand who our service is for. Now, this is why this is important for you and the growth if you are an entrepreneur or a business owner. It's because when you show up in your marketing, right, and people are like, and they get on social media or they're trying to advertise to a group, because they're so broad and general in the way that they speak, people don't know where to put them in their lives. They don't know where to grasp and say, oh, you know what? This is for me. And because we missed this great opportunity to speak directly to a group and to solve one problem, we feel like in our head we're isolating ourselves from a bigger population, but it's actually the opposite. You isolate yourself by being too general because people don't know where to use you. When I want pizza, I go to Pizza Hut. There's no question about it. I mean, and I say that, Pizza Hut's the first one. I have to deprogram my brain to say there are other places that sell pizza, Miranda. Like Nuke sells pizza. There are other restaurants that sell pizza that you could probably get there, but I'm programmed because Pizza Hut is so clear about this is what we do. This is who we serve. And we are very specific about it. We know what you want. We know what you need because they got very niche down and they're speaking to a direct group of people that love pizza. They don't veer out of that. They don't say, you know what, today we're going to do tacos. No, they get very clear about who they serve. And so they speak our language. When we're hungry, they know and they cater to that, And so in that sense, you want to be very direct in who you serve, and you're going to grab all of the people that feel like that, even when they don't look like the ideal target person that you've created. It's not about eliminating yourself from everybody else. It's about helping you to get very specific in how you meet a need so that people who need that as well will gravitate to you.
Oh, that's great. Now I got some of these questions that the students have, these are some really good ones. And again, these are all ninth graders. So
I love it.
this is not coming from adults. But Kyle Washington asked, "What social media do you think is the best for marketing?"
Yeah, so that's a great question. I say whatever social media that your audience is on. And I say that by, and not to give you a general response. I know it's easy to be like, oh, well, there's one that has to be better than the other. But the reality is that there are different type of people that like to communicate in different ways on different platforms, right? And each platform is different. It communicates different, right? When you think about Facebook, it's really chatty. People want to know a lot. They want to have conversation. They want to know what's happening in your life and, in your world. They want to see what you cook for breakfast, and they'll talk to you till the sun goes down, and you can talk to them in long length. And so if your audience is really one that loves to drag on conversation, and that's where that's where you would show up. When you think about Twitter, it's really fast paced. They don't like a lot of conversation. People who are on Twitter want to be on Twitter. They probably 9 times out of 10 are not big on Facebook or other platforms because it's not quick enough for them. It's not quick communication. Twitter is really big on news, current events, and sports, right? And so if you're into sports, then Twitter would probably be. If your audience is a sports based, audience, and you're trying to deliver and have conversations with them, you might want to start out with Twitter, because a lot of sports people go to Twitter for news, if that's the case. Instagram is a little different. Now, I will say that Instagram is a very popular app when it comes to entrepreneurs, just because of the way the platform is built. There's storytelling in there, and then you have the opportunity to do visuals and the timeline. I will say a lot of entrepreneurs do use Instagram, just because it's almost like a billboard, right? Because it's visual. You put up pictures and then you can do the caption. And so it has that billboard appeal and effect to it. So there are a lot of entrepreneurs that are on Instagram and growing on Instagram. But I will tell you that as an entrepreneur, I tend to get a lot of good business from Facebook as well, even though I enjoy Instagram a whole lot more and put a lot of weight into Instagram, right? So and so now that's starting to balance out. And then with the well, for high school, you can't really get on Clubhouse, but Clubhouse for people that are 18 and older is definitely a growing and up and growing networking app as well. So yeah, that's my answer to that.
Yeah, that's a good one. And now this is from Cameron Murray, and he's one of our entrepreneurship students. And he asked, "Where did your idea come from to choose this career?"
Yeah, that's a good question. And I, I I really started doing the work when those years that I spent in radio, and I won't say fell into this, but I kind of did fall into this. I went to school for mass communications, and initially I was focused on public relations, which is what I wanted to go into, relations with the media, helping people with that bridge that relationship and how they showed up and looked in the media. So essentially, that is a part of branding, even though a publicist and a brand strategist are two different job titles, right? People tend to merge them together and get them confused because there are times where publicists are doing branding work and brand people are doing, can dabble and dip in the world of PR, but the titles are different. And so I initially, went to school for that. And I honestly thought I was going to be more, really in the beginning, more in journalism. I thought I was going to be doing a lot more writing than I came out, because I love to write and I love, I just enjoyed that aspect of media. But when I got into radio, it was in those years that I really started, when I branched out and jumped into the open mic world. That was when I really was around a lot of creatives. And what happened was I kept seeing people make mistakes over and over again. And it kept being so clear to me. And so, really, what I did was I just paid attention to the signs of what I felt drawn to, and I started helping people for free, because it wasn't something that I was doing as a profession at the time. And I realized that I'm good at this. And really, for me, I thought about my past over the years and how I'm always trying to help people bring clarity to stuff. I'm always making things clear for people, but I'm always asking the question, why? And I read a couple of books the summer that I quit my job, but one of the books was Simon Sinek's Start With Why. And when I read that book,
Yeah.
that was the moment. I remember sitting at the job I was at, trying to figure out what I was going to do next in my career. Um, and I said to myself, it spoke to me, really, honestly. And I'm going to say this: I probably found the courage to jump into my why in a book. So if you aren't reading or picking up books or being inspired or putting yourself in a position and you're looking and trying to figure out, what do I do next? Start reading, start connecting, start having conversations. The answers will come to you. You just have to put yourself in a position to receive them. And it's not always going to be sitting at your house on your cell phone or in your room on your cell phone.
This is a pretty
And
cool. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh
This
no,
pull up this next question.
Sure. And then, so for me, it was found in the book. And that book in particular, Simon Sinek Start with the Why, really helped to open my eyes to the fact that I could do this full time. And I jumped into it. And I made the decision and I just started educating myself. And that's really how I got into it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I love this question. This is Christian Wolf, and he asks, "Is it hard writing a book?"
Is it hard writing a book? That is such a complex question to answer because when you are a writer, as I am, my mother was a writer. I've been writing and been into poetry my entire life. Um, but I will say that the task of writing a book was challenging because there's so many levels to it. So I'll start with the emotional mental level. The idea that words from me put in a book that someone will want to buy and actually look at and say, this is something worth reading and sharing was a bit intimidating. I will say that, even as a writer, even over the years of
Absolutely, I agree.
I've written poetry, I've written, articles, I've written plays, I've written and directed plays, and still putting my words in a book was a bit intimidating to me and thinking, are people really going to want to hear what I have to say enough to purchase it in a book? But what I will tell you that gave me the confidence was I did the work first, and this book was a representation of the work that was already changing lives and affecting my clients in a positive way. And so I had confidence going in because I did work on the front end before I put it in a book. So I would encourage anybody that can do that, that can write about something that's already proven to have some type of impact on people first before you put it in a book. I would do that. That's my first suggestion. Um, so yes, it is challenging. The second part about the process of it can be challenging. I would recommend that you get help. I did go the self-publishing way, but I did have a team working with me. And so I had a project manager and we worked together to organize the book. And I'll tell you, we organized it by one, just doing a brain dump of all the information we wanted to put in there. We did an outline. Okay, I'm sure this sounds familiar. Old school essay outline. We did an outline of what we wanted the book to look like. And then we filled in that outline. So that skill from school is actually okay. It's something you're going to use.
I agree.
And so I use outlines in speeches. I use outlines in the book, in writing this book. And so I created the outline and then we dumped the information that we had in there. But I had someone to help me with that because a lot of times when it's your baby and it's all of your information, you can feel all over the place. So my recommendation is if you have someone that can help you to organize all of this information, it's best to have that because when you're trying to do it yourself, because you're so close to it, it can be overwhelming. Even for me, someone who really enjoys writing and can understand flow and organization with words. So yeah, but it was challenging. It was difficult. But it probably for me wasn't the most difficult thing because I love writing.
That's awesome.
And we put that book together in 5 months, believe it or not. We started the process in October, and by March it was out.
Wow.
Yeah,
And we're almost out of time, and we appreciate you so much taking some time. But and I've asked you this before, but as somebody like everybody in this room who grew up black and in Mississippi, and
sure.
you still live in Mississippi, even if they don't want to be an entrepreneur, whatever route they want to go, what can they do to be as successful or even close to being successful as you've become?
Yeah, I love that. And I think success um is it subjective? Is I always mix up
Oh,
objective and
it's
subjective.
always subjective because
Yes.
because I don't make near enough money as a teacher, but I still consider myself successful. So,
Yes.
and with and all the people that you've helped, I mean, it's none of my business how much money you make, but there's no doubt you've been successful.
Yeah, yeah. And so this is what I feel about success. And then I'll answer your question very directly. Because I want to share this about the idea of success. That at the end of the day, if money could make you happy, then rich people wouldn't be so miserable, right?
There you go.
And so at the end of the day, success is subjective in the way where I really want people to challenge what it means to make money and to be successful, because for me success lies in of course there's the financial success and that's important, don't get it twisted. I do enjoy money and spending money and making money, but at the end of the day, when you don't have people and relationships, we go back to this relationship thing, right? When you don't have people to share that success with, when you're not being kind and nice to people and growing and building community and having a group of people around you, a circle of people around that you can enjoy life and find the balance and celebrate life with, then you have to ask yourself, are you really successful if you're not happy? Right. So that's the first thing. But what I will say about, and that I want to challenge your idea of what success is, that you don't get so driven to chase money that you're neglecting people, or that you're misusing or abusing people or mistreating people in pursuit of that. That is not success.
Oh yeah.
You'll be unhappy still at the end. You'll never make enough money to be happy. But what I would say, being in Mississippi, is that everything boils down to mindset. Everything starts with mindset. I talk a lot about mindset in my social media. I talk a lot about mindset in the marketing and the aspect of it. I talk about mindset in the book. It's so important. And even the next book that I'm doing and working on is around mindset, because it's so important for not just entrepreneurs, just for quality of life. And if you have all the tools, if I give you all the blueprint of how to be successful, and your mind isn't right and you're not mentally prepared, if you're not positive, if you're not solution oriented, if you're not a person that can that is doing the practice, that when things attack you, that yeah, you're human, you're going to feel it, but you say, okay, what can I do to get out of this rut? If you're not getting in the practice of being in a better space mindset, if you're not getting in the practice excuse me, of seeing yourself successful and practicing being positive, because it's not easy. I'm not going to pretend like being positive is easy, right? Because by nature, we have negative thoughts. These things happen, right? We're human. Sometimes we're down. Sometimes I want to, sulk for a little bit, and then, but it's about saying, I'm gonna sulk, I'm gonna be upset, I'm gonna complain, but then I'm gonna get out of it, right? It's about the shifts, right? It's about not staying in it. Mindset to me is the foundation of any successful person. It's
Ab-
about the mindset.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, whatever resources I've had, whatever advantage people want to feel like I've had, or positioning, I grew up in a single parent home. My mom was a teacher. My grandmother worked at a plant. Neither one of my people that raised me were entrepreneurs. I didn't have an example of what this looked like, but I was determined. And I eventually got to this space because my mindset was always, I'm going to figure it out. And that's how I became successful. And no matter what, with all the things I've been through, and I've dealt with depression, I've dealt with imposter syndrome, I've dealt with feeling like I'm not enough, I've dealt with stress, I had an anxiety attack in 2018, I've dealt with all of the things, okay? But I still said, you know what, I'm going to push through this because this isn't where I'm going to stay. And so it's about mindset to get to this space.
Oh, I'm with you 100% on that. I've had a similar situation for me. But again, we thank you so much for taking some time for us today. And again, everybody who's here, and then everybody will see this later. Her book is amazing. A lot of light. You can get it on Amazon, hard copy, the hard copy like I have, or the ebook. Very easy to read. Great information. Great story. And follow her on Instagram and on Facebook, Maranda Joiner, and MarandaJoiner.com. And
Okay.
hopefully, when we get this COVID over with, we'd love to have you back on campus. We have a teacher that has features Mississippi writers in class, and we'd love to have you get hooked up with her and talk to them about your writing process. I think that'd be great for us as well, and hopefully that'll be next year. I can't wait to have you back here when you've got your other book coming out.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it, and I am excited and as well anxious about it as well.
And thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Okay, thank you. Talk to you later. Thanks for having me. Bye.